Hello, and this is the help video for changing the subject, or as it's otherwise known, rearranging the formula. So here we go with level 1. And here's some examples of the questions that you may get in level 1. So what does the subject mean? Well, the subject in this case is A, because A is by itself on the left hand side of the equation, and on the right is some sort of expression showing perhaps how you would work out A. So this question says make C the subject. So what we would do is, to keep the equation balanced, we would do the same thing to both sides. So what I'm going to do is write it out in full. We're going to subtract B from both sides. So if I subtract B from both sides of this equation, on the left I will get A minus B, and on the right, well, if I take B away, all I'm left with is C. So we've now got C on the right is equal to A minus B. There's nothing wrong with rearranging that to put the C on the left and then the A minus B on the right. And that is the answer to that question. C is now the subject. Okay, this next example is to make J the subject. So we can see J is over here at the moment, but it's being added to 3H. So we want to sort of undo that adding. So what we'll do is we will subtract 3H from both sides. And this is very important. The only things that you're allowed to do are operations that affect both sides equally, so the equation stays balanced. So we'll subtract 3H from both sides. That will give us G minus 3H on the left and the J by itself on the right. So there's nothing wrong with then making it more explicit by writing the J on the left of the equal sign and writing the G minus 3H on the right. So that's the answer. We've made J the subject of that equation. And now the last level 1 example, we have to make F the subject. Well, there's F, and at the moment it's being added to 2G. So we'll undo that adding by subtracting 2G from both sides. I'm writing it out in full just to emphasize that we have to do these operations to both sides. So taking away G from the left side will just leave us with the F, and then on the right we'll have the 3H minus 5, but also minus 2G. The F's already on the left. The F is now the subject, so that is the answer. That's all there is to it. Right, this is level 2, and these are the sorts of questions that you might get on level 2 of the online exercise. So let's start off with this one. It says make A the subject of this formula. Well, at the moment A is being divided by B. We want A to be by itself. So let's multiply both sides of the equation by B. So if we multiply both sides by B, on the left we'll have CB, and on the right we'll have A. And there's nothing wrong with writing that the other way around, so, and even putting these letters in alphabetical order, because it doesn't matter which way around you multiply, to get the answer A being the subject of that formula. Right, let's go to this one down here. And this one says make m the subject of the formula. Well, m is on the bottom of this fraction, it's the denominator here. So let's multiply both sides of this by m. That will give us mp equals n. But we've still got to make m the subject. We've got to leave m by itself. And at the moment it's being multiplied by p. So let's do the opposite, the inverse. Let's divide both sides by p. That gives you m equals n over p. And that is the answer to that question. This one up here then asks to make e the subject. Well, at the moment we're finding 1/3 of e, and we actually want the whole of e. We don't just want 1/3 of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. Multiply the left by 3, and if I multiply the right by 3, 3/3 are a whole one, so that will just leave the e by itself. And as I've said before, there's nothing wrong with writing it with the subject on the left. Right, this is one that you should know. The circumference of a circle and the diameter. And this formula connects those together. But sometimes we may be given the circumference and we want to find the diameter. So let's make d the subject. At the moment, d is being multiplied by pi. So we'll do the inverse. We'll divide both sides by pi. So that gives us c over pi is equal to d, and then there's nothing wrong with writing the equation the other way around, switching the left and the right sides of the balance. We know they balance, so that must be okay, and that is the answer. Now, when you're doing level 2 online, the questions you get are in this format. We've got 5 versions of a formula, but one is the odd one out. One doesn't match the others. It's not the same formula. So let's start off by looking at formula A. And let's see if we can get formula B from formula A. Well, m is equal to n over p. If we multiply both sides by p, we will get this. We will get mp equals n. So these two are equivalent formulas. So we know that neither of these two is the odd one out. They're both okay. So let's check this one. Can I get this from this? If I divide both sides by m, I will get this. So this one must be equivalent as well. We still haven't come to the odd one out yet. Right, what about this? Well, actually this one is the same as this one, with just the left and the right switched around. So that's equivalent. So this one must be the odd one out. I can't see any way of getting this one by doing things to both sides of any of these formulas. So that would be the answer, the odd one out. And this is level 3 of the Changing the Subject help video. And here are typical questions you may get at this level. So let's start off with this one. Make P the subject. So here's P. It's being multiplied by 3 first, and then it's being added onto N. If you remember your order of operations, your BIDMAS or your BODMAS, whatever you call it, we do that multiplication before we would do that addition. So it's being multiplied by 3, added onto N. We want to undo that to leave P by itself. So when we undo, we work backwards and we get rid of this plus N first. So the first thing we're going to do is subtract N from both sides. Don't forget the from both sides is the most important thing to keep the equation balanced. So m minus n is equal to 3p. So now the p is being multiplied by the 3, but we want to leave the p by itself. So we'll undo that operation, we'll divide by 3. but we remember to do it to both sides. So m minus n over 3 is equal to p. And there's nothing wrong with writing down the p, the subject, on the left and the other expression on the right. So that's the nicest way of presenting the answer, really. Right, I think we'll go over to this one next. Notice I've changed the wording slightly. Express u in terms of v. Basically, it's exactly the same, but a different way of asking the same question. So we want to express u. We want to make u the subject. U is being multiplied by 5, then 1 is being subtracted, and then the answer to that is being divided by 3. So when we're doing the inverse, we work backwards, we undo it. So we start off by getting rid of this by multiplying both sides by 3. So 3v is equal to 5u, that doesn't look very much like a u, does it? 5u minus 1, get rid of that. And now what we do, the 5 is being multiplied by the u and 1 is subtracted, so we'll undo it by getting rid of the 1 by adding 1 to both sides. So 3v plus 1 is equal to 5u. And finally, let's undo the multiply by 5 here by dividing both sides by 5. 3v plus 1 divided by 5 is equal to u. You could leave it like that, or you could write the u on the left. Doesn't really matter, but we have made u the subject. Right, let's go down here. This is another version of the wording of the question. Express y in terms of x. So y is what we want to express. That's what we want to make the subject. And we want everything else on the other side. So we're going to start off by subtracting 3x from both sides. That will give us 2y equals 7 minus 3x. And now to leave the y by itself, we divide both sides by 2. And that's the answer to that question. Okay, let's look at this wording. Rearrange the formula to make c the subject. So there's our c, that's what we want to make the subject. Right, let's start off by multiplying both sides by 3. That'll give us 3b equals 2a minus c, because multiplying by this side by 3 will cancel with that divide by 3. Right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add c to both sides. So I'll have 3b add c is equal to 2a. Because if I add c to that, it cancels out. And remember, we're trying to make c the subject, so the final step is just to subtract 3b from both sides, and there is the answer. Okay, we're now on level 4. Are you still with us? Good. Right, getting a slightly more tricky now. Okay, here's some examples of the questions you'll get at level 4 in the online exercise. And we'll begin with this one that contains some brackets. We've got to make c the subject. Well, the process is the same as before. C, first of all we subtract 5 and then we multiply the whole thing by 3. So in order to leave c by itself, we have to undo all of that by doing the inverse operations in the reverse order. So c, subtract 5 times 3, we'll get rid of that 3 first. We'll divide both sides by 3. So we have b over 3 is equal to c minus 5. And then what we'll do, to leave c by itself, we'll undo the subtract 5 by adding 5 to both sides. So b over 3 add 5 equals c. And remember, there's no harm in writing it this way around a little more clearly with the subject on the left hand side. So that's how you would do that. Right, now let's go down the page a little bit to this one here, which is express C in terms of A and B. Well, there is the C. It's on the bottom of a fraction. Right, so I think the first thing I will do is I'll multiply both sides by that denominator, that B plus C, and that just leaves the 2 by itself. Right, now I will multiply out the brackets. So AB plus AC is equal to 2. Then I'll subtract AB from both sides. AC is equal to 2 minus AB. And remember, it's C that we want to make the subject, so I will divide both sides by A. 2 minus AB all over A. And that's the answer. Okay, now, oh my goodness, we've got S appearing twice in this formula here, this equation. So let's start off by getting rid of the fraction. I'm going to multiply both sides by S. So that gives me ST is equal to P minus 2S. Now I'll add the 2s to both sides, so st add 2s is equal to p. Now I've got two terms with a common factor of s, so I can factorize like that, and then divide both sides by this factor here, so s is equal to p over t plus 2. Easy when you know how. Okay, hope you followed that, because we've got another example here now where the a appears twice. So let's run the same routine, multiply both sides by the denominator there. That gives me AB on the left and 2 minus AC on the right. Now I'll add that to both sides, so AB plus AC is equal to 2. Then I'll factorize B plus C is equal to 2, and then I will divide both sides by that second factor, B plus C, and that is the answer. Hope you followed that. We've now reached the dizzy heights of level 5. So we've got some squareds and square roots and cubes I see here. So let's start off with the easy one first. Make B the subject of this. Well, B is being squared, so let's undo that, and the inverse of squaring is to find the square root. So let's find the square root of both sides, and that will undo the squaring. And then there's nothing wrong with writing it with the subject on the left. Not too bad. Okay, this one. Make A the subject of this. Well, first of all, let's get rid of that square root sign by squaring both sides. R squared equals A over pi. And then multiply both sides by pi. Pi r squared, have you heard that before, is equal to a, so a is equal to pi r squared. Yes, the area of a circle given its radius. Okay, let's go up here, make C the subject of this. This looks a little bit like Pythagoras' theorem. Make C the subject. So C is being squared, and then after that it's being added to B squared. It's important you know that, the order of operations, because when we undo those, when we find the inverse, we have to work backwards. So the first thing we need to do is get rid of the B squared by subtracting B squared from both sides. And that is almost there, because finally a quick square root will give me C equals the square root of A squared minus B squared. See what I did there? I switched sides at the same time. You've got to be quick, you see. Okay, finally, for this level, we have got this formula here. Make r the subject. There's the r. I'm going to start off by multiplying both sides by the 4r cubed to start with, and that will give me 3v on the right. Then I will divide both sides by 4 pi. In fact, I could have left that 4 down there, couldn't I? But never mind, we're getting there. So r cubed is 3v over 4 pi. So now we have to undo this cubing. So we have to find the cube root. So if we find the cube root of the left, it's just r. And that means we have to do the same thing to both sides. So the cube root of the right side is that. There we have it. And the last level of this exercise on changing the subject is level 6. So well done if you're still with us for this level. Okay, this level requires you to substitute some values into the rearranged equation. So this first question, if a is equal to 2b plus c, we have to find c when a is 8 and b is 2. So we have to find c. I think we need to make c the subject of this equation, which is quite easily done by subtracting the 2b from both sides. Now let's put in the values that c is equal to a is 8, take away 2 times b, which is 2. So 8 take away 4, c must equal 4. So this question here, we have to find k. K is having 5h subtracted from it, then it's being squared. So to undo that, we will reverse the squaring first. The inverse is the square root. So the square root of both sides gives us root 4j equals k minus 5h. Now what we will do is, remember, we want to make k the subject, so we'll add 5h to both sides and switch it round. And we have k is equal to root 4j plus 5h. And now we can substitute in the values. The fact that we know j is 16 and we know that h is negative 7. So then 4 times 16 is 64, so the square root of 64 is 8. A positive 5 times a negative 7 will give us minus 35. So the final answer, k, is minus 27. Right, let's pull this clipboard down so you can see what we're doing over here. Right, we have to find p. So let's begin by making p the subject. I'll square both sides, and that gives us 2p plus b over 5. I'll multiply both sides by 5. 5i squared is equal to 2p plus b. And then I will subtract b from both sides. 5i squared minus b equals 2p. And then I'll switch it around and divide both sides by 2. So p is equal to 5i squared minus b all over 2. And now I just have to put the values in, the 9 and the 2. The 9 for I, so I've got 5 times 81 minus 2 over 2. So that will give me 5 times 81 is going to give me 405. Take away 2 is 403. Divide by 2 is 201.5. Just about had enough room to get that answer in. Okay, finally, we have to find x when a is 1. So we need to make x the subject of the equation. And this time I think I'll put the value of 1 in there straight away. So if I substitute a for 1, it'll just be 3 on the left side. And then I'm going to multiply both sides by 2x plus 3. So I've got 3 lots of 2x plus 3 is equal to 5x minus 4. I'll multiply out the bracket. 6x plus 9 is equal to 5x minus 4. I'll subtract 5x from both sides, and I will then subtract 9 from both sides. So altogether I've got minus 13, which is our value for x. Right, so good luck with the online exercise, and remember there are lots more online exercises and other activities at transom.org. Good luck.
You can find Transom Mathematics at www.transom.org, where you're welcome to use all of the activities absolutely free. Or jump in with both feet and become a Transom subscriber.